Sir, we are live now. Please start.
Okay, thanks, Balaji. Thanks for arranging this. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to reach you all in the beginning of this new year. Wishing all viewers of this presentation a very happy new year. May all your new year resolutions that would help you to grow as well as others to grow in a healthier way may become true. Yeah. Before we get into today's session, that is about the test automation challenges and the solutions, let me give a brief intro about myself. Uh, this is Saravana Babu Srinivasan, working as Associate Vice President in Ancora. I'm having almost like 25 plus years of experience in IT industry. I started my career as a developer working on Oracle and Developer 2000, assumed different hats, played different roles as developer, test lead, test manager, practice head, vertical head, director, as well as currently I'm playing the role of AVP with Encora. I'm a PMP certified, continuously learning. Recently completed Azure Fundamentals Certification course, that is the AZ 900. Have project and people management skills and expertise. Worked on different domains and web technologies. To name a few, I had worked on credit card, banking, mortgage, and financial domains. Managed teams located across the globe and not only managed my own team, but also managed stakeholders of the product and the projects where or on which I was involved. So let me get into today's presentation. So today's agenda is first we'll go through the test automation. In brief, what is a test automation? And since we have enough content and material available in the internet on technical challenges in dealing with different tool and binding languages, I'm not going to talk in depth about those technical challenges. I'm going to mostly talking about the other challenges that anyone faces in a test automation project. That is what I'll be doing in today's session. One of the reasons why I thought of selecting this topic is we are very often seeing the outcome of test automation projects are not very effective, or they are not resulting into a software usable and purposeful software, but becoming a self-worth. They are developed but not used frequently, something like that. That is the current situation of the test automation project. What I mean is sometimes organizations and teams are very enthusiastic in the beginning of the project, test automation project, and end up in selecting a wrong tool or a wrong framework, and which results in a selfware rather than a working test automation software. So I thought let us touch upon this subject, and success of test automation depends on the maximum coverage and the frequent usage of the uh, software for the execution. That would increase the quality of our deliverables. So just having a test automation software does not serve the purpose. It has to be properly planned to put in use. So that is the reason for this presentation. And let me get into the test automation. What is uh, test automation? In simple terms, we can say that test automation is the process of automating the test execution. This eliminates the need for why do we do that is this eliminates the need for repetitive manual tasks in tests such as regression and functional testing. Test automation will also help in removing defects which were introduced newly into the existing functionalities. And as humans, we have the feeling that this functionality we tested recently, so we need not test it again. And we found that there were no bugs, all those things. Whereas the automation will help the teams to overcome this kind of monotonous or tiredness that crops up in the automation or the test engineers very often. With test automation in place, we can run it any number of times, and the execution is going to reveal if there are any issues or bugs due to the recent changes. So when we look at the benefits, it will free up the time for the testing team to concentrate on something more challenging and something that requires more intellectual thinking, and where humans can contribute more on such things, and will also help us to test often. What I mean is, any number of times we can execute the test cases, automated test cases, and whenever we feel like, for example, in the middle of the night, if we need to execute a test suite, it doesn't require more than a person. Just they have to trigger the automated scripts, and the results will be sent to the stakeholders automatically, and no need of working throughout the night, a couple of members working throughout the night or something like that. And it will also help us doing the same job again and again. As I said before, which will make the human mind tired, and it may result in the human tiredness. If we are going to do it again and again, there will be a lethargic approach and all those things. So that is the reason why we are going for the test automation. And also it will become very handy. We can be assured that running any number of times, it is going to give a consistent results. How it was designed, it is going to execute, and it is going to provide the results. So it is the process of running the test cases in an automatic manner using appropriate tools. That is what the test automation, one of the definitions for the test automation. And it will also help us to manage the testing data that is required for the execution. Normally we will go for production-like data. Nowadays, all applications are data intensive, and there is no meaning in having an automated tool that doesn't care about the test data. The test automation tool and the framework should allow us to prepare and manage the test data that mimics the production data. That is very important. And the success of our execution depends on the representation of the test data that is used for the execution. So the probability of finding issues depends on the test data, what has been used for the execution. More the data that mimics the production, it is more better. So if you need better results, we should have a proper data that mimics the production. Then the next one is analyzing the results. So the tool should not only give the test result report as summary, but also it should help the consumers of the reports to analyze the test results. Without that, it is very difficult to confirm the results or to debug the results if there are any issues, or if you want to trace back the steps executed by the test automation software. Those things cannot be done without having a proper reports in place. So test results reports should have enough information to authenticate the results provided by the automation software, and also it should help anyone to debug the steps of execution. So then coming to the challenges in the test automation project, It is from my perspective, I have categorized the challenges into three major categories. One is strategy related challenges, then implementation related challenges, and the third one is operation related challenges. So challenges during strategy phase are bucketized under strategy challenges. And during implementation phase, whatever the hurdles we are facing are categorized as implementation challenges. And whatever we see during the maintenance or operation phase are the basically the resistance or friction that we come across during the operation or maintenance phase are classified as operation challenges. So we'll start looking into or deep dive into those challenges in detail in the upcoming slides. So let us get into the test automation challenges section. Uh, and so these are the challenges which I felt that are very important challenges are which often faced by the test automation team. So starting from the uh, selection of the right automation tool and coming out with the automation framework, right skilled engineers and engineers having the right set of skills as well as expertise, then supportability of the application under test. These are the challenges which I had listed. Let us see one by one what are all the challenges related to the right automation tool. Selecting the right tool is the primary and very important step in test automation. Most of the organizations or teams will get influenced by the popularity of the tools available in the market. So before taking the decision on the right tool based on the popularity or something like that, we need to think about the existing and the future technical roadmap of the application or the product that is going to be tested using that test automation software, what we are going to develop. So every application under test, the what we call it as AUT or different. It may be similar, but it may not be the same. So that level of difference we should be able to appreciate, and so we can consider them as unique in nature. There are multiple factors, not only the application, but also we need to look at the team composition and the roadmap of the application. All those things need to be considered while selecting the right automation tool. So select a tool that suits your requirement. Think about the compatibility of the tool with the application under test. That is also important when we take a call on what tool needs to be used. For this, we should have a clarity on the existing technology stack and the future technology stack of the application under test. So have discussion with the stakeholders, understand how the existing application which is going to be tested is going to evolve over a period of time, and what kind of technology stack is used, and what automation tool will best suit uh, the tool or the application what we are going to test. Okay, don't get into marketing trap, or don't get into something like based on the reviews provided on various tools. Don't go by that way, and if required, do a POC, and then you decide on the right automation tool. So that will be a better approach for selecting the right automation tool. When it then the next one is right framework. The test automation framework. If you look at what is a test automation framework, it is a set of it's a guidelines. Okay, it is a framework is nothing but a set of guidelines for designing, creating, and executing test cases. How you are going to design the test cases when you get the manual test cases, how you are going to convert them into the automated test cases, and how you are going to maintain them and execute the test cases, and how you are going to get the results report out of that. So, this is what a test automation framework consists of. Along with that, it should enable the users to, who are the team which is involved in maintaining or operating the test automation software. It should help them to maintain not only the test cases, but also the test data that are required for the test execution. There are so many frameworks and design patterns are available. But as I said before, for the right automation tool, we should keep in mind that not all readily available framework will solve our problem. Okay, so first try to understand what is our problem and what is that we are going to solve. So select a framework that will solve our problem and also provide an optimum solution that we are looking for. Thorough analysis and understanding of various things need to be done before deciding the framework. What are the needs of the test automation project, details of application under test, and who are all the users going to maintain and use the test automation software. So those things need to be considered, and we should have a clear understanding of those things before deciding the framework. So framework is not a single tool or process. Once again, I would like to emphasize that it is a collection of tools and processes working together to support the test automation. So as such, test automation framework alone or the test automation tool and the binding language alone will not provide the solution. So the framework plays a major role in arriving at a solution, and that is what going to decide the future of the test automation software that we are developing. So it integrates various functions like libraries, reusable modules, test data, report logs, everything uh, will be part of the test automation framework. That is where you are going to decide how it has to be, test cases need to be designed, how it will be executed, and what is that, how we are going to maintain the test data, and how a report should look like, and who are all the stakeholders for whom the report should be sent in an automated way, and which team requires what kind of reports, and what kind of logs are required to be maintained for successful debugging. All those things are going to be defined in the framework. So come out with a framework that works for you as well as for the application. So yeah, actually, this is you might have understood. This is the foundation that provides the user to design, develop, execute, and generate test cases in an optimized manner. Frameworks, as I said, it combines the tools and the binding language. In general, the framework combines the guidelines, coding standards, concepts, processes, practices, then project hierarchies, modularity, reporting mechanism, test data injections, and more. So it is users, when they want to reap the right benefits out of this test automation software, we need the right automation framework in place. So some of the most valuable things that we can get out of the right framework is the ease of scripting, then how it can be scaled in the future. So the scalability and reusability and uh, the low maintenance. Otherwise, it is going to cost you very heavily. So it is better to have a lean framework that serves your purpose. So look for a framework which is unique and which will serve the purpose for which you are developing the automation software. And if required, uh, look at the various readily available frameworks available in the market. Take them, tweak it to your product project or the application needs uh, to get the maximum benefit out of that. Then the next one is right skilled engineers. So the team which is going to work on the uh, automation software, development of automation software, as well as the maintaining the software, all those things, uh, they they should be having the right skills and expertise. So that is very important for the success of the project. Of course, the skill set and expertise are determined by the tool, right automation tool, what you have selected, and also the binding language that is going to be used in that. So think about whether you have the required skill set and expertise within the existing team, or do we need to recruit a new set of people or resources for this. See, the another caveat here is if we are going to onboard new resources and who are not well versed with the application under test, we also need to think about training them on the application under test as well as the related domain. That also need to be considered when we are looking at the right skilled engineers as a challenge. Then also a major challenge that the team may come across is the supportability of the application under test. We can say that not all tools and framework will be 100% compatible with the application under test due to the fact that the application under test might have evolved over a period of time, and that's how it is now. And the application under test might not have been designed and developed in a proper way that would support the test automation. For example, let us assume that your application under test is a web application. Few of the core application web pages might have been developed long ago, and they may be having large number of web elements, and they may not be having unique identifiers, which will be a challenge for your test automation tool to locate those elements. And also the think about a page that gets refreshed. Let us assume a form page where you are submitting the form with the details, and each and every field when you enter the data and move out of that field, the page, let us assume that the page refreshes every time a field is modified. So what will happen is the test automation tool under your framework should have the capability of waiting and accepting the fact that there will be a there will be a refresh whenever your field is entered, and when you leave that field to the next, or when you navigate to the next field, the page will refresh. So you should accommodate that delay. And these are all the good examples which will result in the or have a direct impact on the execution, and also there is a chance of getting a inconsistent results. For example, if the page is having hundreds of fields, And every time when you enter a field and when you leave the field, the page is going to get refreshed. The probability of the failure within that page itself more. So whenever you run, sometimes that page will, you'll end up in passing the page or uh, submitting the form in that page with successful result, or that may result in a success. But most of the time, what you will see is a failure, because when there is a page refresh, and if you are not tuned your uh, the test automation framework and the code, how you have handled during the designing of the cases, if it is not done properly, it is obviously it is going to fail. So the supportability of the application under test is also a big challenge, and it has to be taken care while deciding on the strategy. Maybe you have to run a parallel project where you have to tell the development team to take care of the supportability of the application under test, so that you can get the maximum benefits out of the test automation software that you are developing. Then let us move on to the next set of challenges. Those are implementation challenges. So again, I have listed out the top implementation challenges from my perspective. The first one is designing test cases, then test cases prioritization and sequencing, then how we are handling the exceptions, then what is the adequacy of the reports, whether we are going to get the adequate reports that's going to help the team to uh, consume the results, whatever uh, that our test automation software has executed. So when it comes to the designing the test cases, while designing test cases, we have to mimic the steps that a human mind can think of while executing the test cases manually. So what we are trying to do is, when a person or when an engineer executes the test cases, how what are all the things he will look at as part of the results, in addition to the expected results that comes out of the requirement. So we have to think about both the things, and we have to come out with proper test cases in the test automation software. So designing test cases is an art, and it is also a engineering process. We have to accept the fact both these things need to be considered while designing the test cases. So try to understand and internalize the manual test cases and implement it for automated testing. And one thing is, we cannot afford to miss the uh, whatever the level of details the test execution should go through. It should have enough assertions and exception handling mechanisms, so that it handles the failures, if any, and also at the same time do not overcomplicate the things. Uh, it should be something like a middle path, a balance between the coverage and the complexity. We should have clarity on what it covers and also what it does not cover. For example, there are nowadays the again let us take a web application, and the capture or OTP to access a privileged page or a privileged pages cannot be tested, and we may go for a approach like in the test environment we may need to disable to run the automated test cases. So try to understand that these are all the limitations of the test automation software what you had designed. So we should be aware of the limitations, and also we should know the risk associated with this kind of approach. So while designing the test cases, we should consider these things into the uh, uh, consider these things as risks while executing the cases, because you are not actually depicting the real uh, way of execution in the production. So you are going to disable some of the features and you are going to run the test cases. So while designing the test cases, these things should be considered and should be taken care. Then coming to the test cases, prioritization and sequencing. While designing the test cases, there are two things actually. One is prioritization and the other one is sequencing them. So basically prioritization is based on the functional importance and the ease of automation. Sequencing is nothing but based on the logical flow. So both should be taken care. So prioritization, while prioritizing the test cases, try to target the low-hanging fruits, the which are complex in functionality, are at the same time which are easy to automate or easy to implement in your test automation software. Go for those things first. Then coming to the sequencing, unless you sequence them properly, it is it is going to result in complication. Why I am telling is it should be sequenced in such a way that even if any of the test cases fails, it should skip the automation software, should skip them and proceed to the next one. It should not get stuck there, and we should have minimum number of places where the whole execution can come to a grinding halt. Otherwise, what will happen is overnight execution, we cannot guarantee the results always the next day morning when you come and check for the results. So the sequencing of the test cases is also very important, and how you are going to handle the exceptions. While designing the test cases, all possible failures should be considered, and we should have a clear understanding of what may go wrong, and uh, those exceptions should be handled properly. Otherwise, again, we'll end up in partial execution, or the whole execution will come to a grinding halt, and you will see that insufficient results or reports, which will not serve the purpose of the execution for which we have developed the automation software. So we should handle the exceptions, all possible exceptions that can occur during the execution, and we should have a proper mechanism to overcome those things. Then coming to the adequate reports. First thing, we should understand that the needs of the different stakeholders should be will be always different. For example, management requires summary level of summary kind of reports. Some others may be looking for failures and the corresponding defects or bugs that the test team would log. Test engineers would be looking for details of failures and the evidence for the past test cases. That is what the test engineers will be looking for. And both the development team as well as the testing team will be looking for the debugging or retracing the path, the automation script that had taken while or during the execution. So that is very important when it comes to reproducing a defect or a failure. And yeah, what we see is failure, and the fault may be lying somewhere inside the code. So if the developers need to understand what kind of failures we have seen and how the test automation software has navigated through the different functionalities of the application and the test, they should be able to make it or should be able to map it clearly, and what kind of test data was used and how the software has navigated or which path it took. All those things will be their interest, the development team's interest to understand and debug. So coming to the last bucket, that is the operation challenges. Uh, Upgrading tools version, then enriching the framework, updating the test cases execution and cleanup. These are all the operation challenges. Yeah, what a test testing team will go through actually. So we have to keep track of newer releases corresponding to the uh, tools as well as the binding languages. The This will help us to understand the deprecated functions or methods of both the tools and the binding languages that have are uh, that has been used in the test automation software development. So it is important for the team to understand what is new in the newer version and also decide on whether to upgrade or retain the same version and how long we are going to use the same version, or do we need to switch over to the newer version of the tool, or do we need to go for a newer version of the binding language what we had used. So sometimes it will help us to reduce the code and also to address a very complex functionality and with less uh, quantity of code, something like that. So always keep track of whatever the new releases are rolled out for the on both the tools and the binding languages. And the next one is enriching framework. So, most of the time what will happen is the framework will become stale. As application under test is evolving, we should also keep the framework up to date. So keep enriching the framework with more methods in library. That would help to reduce the test case preparation time. And also based on the whatever we discussed the previous point, based on the newer version of the tools and binding languages, keep the keep enriching the framework. It should be up to date, and also it should help the testing team to come out with the new set of test cases in a shorter span of time. All those things should be taken care, and keeping the framework up to date is itself it is a very big challenge actually. Unless people pay attention, it is going to be ignored, and that will result in the stale framework, which is not acceptable or which is not a desired one. So it is basically the responsibility of the test automation team to keep the framework live and up to date. So uh, as they as we see lots of changes happening on the tools and the uh, the binding languages version, we should keep them always up to date, the framework. Then coming to the updating the test cases, this is another major responsibility of the test automation team. Test automation team has to keep the test cases up to date based on the changes in the functionality from release after release. The test cases should be updated, and the test cases should reflect the recent functionality and the data flow. Otherwise, unwanted confusion and misinterpretation of the results are possible. So keep track of the uh, requirements and how they have changed for an existing functionality or a new functionality which is going to affect the existing functionality. All those things should be taken care. Then test case execution and cleanup. This is another challenge. Uh, very often we observed is we might have developed a purposeful automation software, test automation software, but over a period of time, what will happen is because of the maybe a lack of skilled resources to maintain and execute, and also due to the mindset of the team. So many times we come across something like the team will tell that instead of running the automated test cases, we'll run them manually and we can complete it in a shorter period of time, or we can unearth more issues than the automated tool what we are using. So it means there are some gaps in the automation whatever we had done, and also it is because of the mindset of the people. They tend to uh, execute the cases manually rather than uh, allowing or uh, making use of the automation software that has been developed. So in such cases, what will happen is they might have stopped paying attention, and the automation software might have been ignored and left unattended. So it will become stale, and suddenly there will be a pressure on using the automation software because of the timeline or something else might have come, and it will become very urgent, and everyone working on the testing team will try to give life to the automation software. But it should be understood that it may not be possible to revive a stale test automation software in a short span of time. So to keep it live, it should we should execute it again and again or very frequently, and keep tuning the cases, keep tuning the framework, keep tuning the methods what are used for that, and also keep tuning the exception handling mechanism that is built for the automation software. Otherwise, we'll end up in a stale uh, test automation software. So we have come to the last section, that is a solution for the challenges. So let us go through the solutions. It is already covered when I was explaining the challenges, but to make it very clear, let me run through the solutions against each and every challenges. Uh, all three, that is strategy related, implementation related, and also the operation related challenges. When it comes to the right automation tool, we need to do a thorough study and analysis of the application under test. Then coming to the right automation framework, understand the technology and the complexity of the application under test. Also we need to club it with the skill set of the resources and the expertise of the resources, along with the technology and the complexity of the application under test, to come out with the right automation framework. Then coming to the challenge related to the right skilled engineers or uh, engineers with the right expertise. So understand and uh, appreciate the level of expertise and the skills that is required to uh, develop, manage, and also how they are going to tweak it in the future. So for that, we need to have a clear understanding and the clarity on the automation tool that is used, and the framework, how what kind of framework we have used, and the binding language, and if there are any supporting tools, what are all the supporting tools we are going to use it for developing the test automation software. That we should have a clarity, and then we should decide like which team is going to, or which resources are going to work on the development. So that kind of clarity we should have. Then supportability of the application under test. Try to understand the gaps in the application under test, how much it will support if we go for this automation tool or this kind of binding language, and how we are going to manage the overall development, all those things. So supportability of application under test can be, that challenge can be addressed by understanding the overall functionality and the way the application under test has been developed. Okay. Then coming to the implementation challenges, the designing test cases. So as usual, we should have a clear understanding of the acceptance criteria and the expected results of the test cases. Then the test cases prioritization and sequencing. We should have a thorough understanding of the functionality and the complexity of the application under test, and what these test cases are going to address, and also the logical flow and the data flow of the application should be clearly understood to uh, decide on the prioritization and the sequencing and the handling exceptions. All we should be clear about the all possible failures that may occur, or we should be able to foresee these kind of failures may occur, and how we are going to handle those exceptions, that we should have a clear understanding. Then adequate reports. Needs of these stakeholders we should be knowing beforehand to decide on what kind of reports that will serve the purpose of the reports that is expected by the different teams and the stakeholders. Then operation challenges, upgrading tools version. This we have to keep track of new, modified and deprecated methods because of the recent versions of the tools and the binding language, that we should keep track. Then enriching framework, keep reviewing and adding new features that will enrich the framework. Don't allow it to go stale. Then updating test cases. When it comes to updating test cases, I suggest that maintain a traceability matrix between the manual and the automated cases, and also what within those test cases, what part is covered by the test cases, and if there are anything which are not addressed by the automated test cases, that should be clearly spelled out, so that that should be taken up by the manual testing team for their execution. And also keep updating the test cases so that the recent changes of the application under test are always reflected in the test automation software what you are having. Then coming to the test execution, test cases execution and cleanup, we have to run them on regular basis. Frequent running of test cases will help you to understand how the application is behaving, as well as how our test automation software is behaving. And we have to tweak and clean up the test cases based on the execution results, and try to address as much as possible so that the quality of the deliverables are improved by, and we can reap the maximum benefits out of the test automation software. So yeah, we have come to the end of the today's presentation. So if there are any questions, I can address them. David or Balaji, are there any questions?
Just one, he's put it in the chat, Sarvana.
Okay. Okay. What is the future of test automation, cloud computing future? Any impact of cloud in test automation? Of course, test automation is, it has a very bright future. Actually, we are in the world of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So everything is going to be automated, and test automation is not going to be spared out of that. Then coming to the cloud computing future, of course, that is going to be the what that it is going to rule the whole thing. And uh, any impact of cloud in test automation? Yes, it is. It is going to, or it has already started impacting. Okay, cloud computing. It is. It is impacting in so many ways. So even to run the test automation software, we need multiple instances, multiple. So basically, the system resources, we need more system resources, and it is better to run from the cloud on the applications which are already running in the cloud, something like that. So, of course, it is going to have computing is having a direct impact on the way the test automation is evolving. And any impact on the job of test engineer, of course, we have to keep upgrading ourselves, and we have to be not only the what the framework should be up to date, we also should be up to date. So that is, that will have a cloud computing understanding of the cloud concepts, and working on the cloud is very much required for a test engineer, and is we cannot avoid that. If we want to survive in this field, we have to keep learning and upgrading ourselves. So that is very much required. Which testing framework is currently used? See, there are so many testing framework, action-based, keyword-driven, data-driven framework. Again, it depends. As I said before during the presentation, it is like it depends the application under test and what are all the needs for or what are all the deciding factors on the success of the application under test. So that is what going to decide the framework which we have to select, or what kind of framework should be there in place to address the test automation requirements. So there are plenty of frameworks available, and we need to keep what is that, analyzing and looking for a automation framework that will really suit our needs. So there is nothing like only this framework will suit for this application under test or something like that. We have to select the right testing framework based on our needs. So thanks, Shanteshwar, for asking the questions. Any other questions?
No, Sarvana, that's all for today.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining, and thank you, Sarvana, so much for doing this presentation today.
Thank you very much, and thanks everyone for joining this call, and advance thanks to the people who are going to view this presentation. Thanks, David and Balaji, for organizing this.